So we're about halfway through the NBA regular season now, and with all these trades going around of people moving a bunch of draft picks and everything, I figured why not start now to look at what the next potential draft could look like. This year's draft is kind of regarded as not being as good as others, and I would tend to agree with that. I don't see as much elite talent, at least with whatever my eyes can tell me. But one of my favorite things to do in basketball is to evaluate like the younger players and see the growth in them, and then looking at potential people. Like when I was in college basketball, the recruiting aspect of it was probably my favorite part of the game. And thankfully today, Bleacher Report put out a new mock draft, which is very convenient for me because I said I wanted to do this today. So I figured we'd go through at least like the lottery picks and kind of take a look at some of these top prospects and the fit with those potential teams and just kind of see what we think of them. So I have a guess as to who's going to be number one. Yeah, and it's Alexander? I don't know. I haven't heard his name actually pronounced. Sarr. So he's the big man, another big man out of France coming out. A couple foreign prospects again coming out of the draft. This seems to be a trend recently, and we can talk about why that is. I personally think it's because they're putting more emphasis on skill development than the United States players are. Kids growing up nowadays aren't necessarily learning as much skill-wise as they are just like playing games, whereas overseas they emphasize the skill and learning how to play within a system a little bit more, and I think that's why maybe they're translating a little better. But I'm guessing that Sarr is going to be one of like three top prospects, possibly picked like 1, 2, and 3, and we'll see if this mock draft reflects it. But yeah, no, Sarr is probably my favorite prospect in it. Well, yeah, there might be one other, but I like Sarr a lot. And him going to the Pistons might need to prioritize position a little bit more. And I don't know if Sarr is that much better than some of the other prospects to where it wouldn't be worth them drafting someone else. Maybe that's a situation where they trade down like a pick or two so that someone a little more needing can draft Sarr. In terms of what Sarr brings to the game, though, defensively, he's got like a high motor. He's a big-time shot blocker and everything. Do they have like any numbers for him? Yeah, 7'1", Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a really good comparison, I think, for his game because the outside shot, while not like really elite yet, is definitely showing. But what's the most interesting to me is this guy's motor. He's going very hard. He's very emotional on the court. And when you have a big man that does that, I just feel like that's really like a tone setter. And there's so many like good big men that are popping up on elite teams now, whether it's like the Jokic, the Anthony Davis, right? Porzingis there, Giannis, obviously. Like you're going to need somebody that can match up with all of these guys physically, as well as like protect the paint. Because I mean, there's two places that people want to score from nowadays. It's the 3-point line. It's how well can you defend that, and then the rim. And this guy can defend the rim. So I completely understand why this guy would go number one. Does he go to Detroit? I don't really think so. I think that's a situation where they probably trade down, and I have a different player in mind that they would take, which we'll talk about because I'm sure he'll appear there. But addressing need a little bit more, you make a trade if they get the number one pick, and you acquire some other assets as well. Let's take a look at who they think the number 2 pick. Yep, so there's the next foreign guy that I assumed. And I think that regardless of where the Spurs pick, I think this is going to be who they're looking at. Nikola Topic, yeah, another Nikola coming to the league, right? It's apparently a pretty common name over there. But so Topic is a point guard, and the best comparison I would say is probably like Josh Giddey. Like he's a bigger guard. I want to say he's 6'6". Is that what we have him as? Yeah, 6'6", about 200 pounds actually. They compare him to Shea. That's kind of interesting. I see him as more of a very pass-oriented point guard, which makes a lot of sense, right? The Spurs desperately need point guard help. It's great that Trey Jones has finally been put in the starting lineup. They've been playing a lot better, and thus Victor Wembanyama has been playing a lot better, which is kind of the key to them winning games right now. Slight tangent, like why doesn't like every player on the Spurs just figure out how to be the one to feed Wembanyama the most? Isn't that the best way to try and stay on an NBA team if you're on the Spurs? Because like he's like the only guaranteed guy besides maybe like Vassell to be on this roster long term. So like, wouldn't you just want to be best friends with Wemby? But whatever, right? And so I look at Topic here and I see him as a guy that, one, the Spurs love the foreign players, right? They usually come in a little more disciplined, right? And they're a little more profound when it comes to their like little minor skills here and there, right? Like that's something that the Spurs love. They preach that stuff anyway, come in with good discipline, right? That's awesome. So I see him as kind of like that big guard that could play point guard for them, right? You build around a very big center and a very big point guard. He has a guy that he can feed the ball to early in his career. We all know it's very hard to play point guard when you first come into the NBA. And so him already having Wembanyama to just feed the ball to, I think is great. Do I think he's like an elite scoring prospect? Not really, but I see him as a high-level facilitator. When you look at his like defensive numbers and stuff, they're not very good, and I don't think that he necessarily has a lot of those skills yet, but he's young, and I think he's got the build to be it, and I think he's athletic enough to where he can be a solid point guard, or a defensive point guard, I should say. But he's good at breaking down like defenders and stuff like that. He's got a couple like little in-out moves. He doesn't just have like 1 or 2 counters like a lot of young guys have. He has like 3 or 4 that I've noticed. So I think Topich would be a nice player to add to the Spurs. We'll see if we can go with another one. Yep, there's the other foreign guy. I'm going to try to pronounce the last name correct, but I believe it's Zachary Racher. I believe he's also French, right? Yeah, one of my former players that I used to coach is in this French league with him now. So Racher, basically picture him as like a more athletic Michael Porter Jr. His catch and shoot numbers are like actually crazy. I don't know exactly what it is, and maybe they list it here somewhere. Yeah, 48%. God damn, I was gonna say like 46% from like 3 and stuff. But yeah, no, he's got that really quick shooting form. He gets it up well. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit better. Like he seems like the modern day NBA 3, right? So I think it's very low risk and everything. See, this is who I figured would make more sense on Detroit, right? Because then I could picture like a lineup of like Cade, Asar, and like Racher. You could have Ivy come off the bench or something like that. But I think that's a better fit. So if they could trade down and get him or something, I think that'd work out just fine for them. But no, like the fit of him on the Wizards, like that makes sense. At some point, though, I feel like the Wizards need to take somebody with some like upside to them. Otherwise, they're just going to be stuck where they're at for forever. And I don't know how much upside he has. I say like the Michael Porter Jr. like is kind of his ceiling, right? And maybe that's wrong because he did take like a big jump from like last year to this year. Apparently, I haven't looked at those numbers specifically, but if he's developing like that, maybe he does become more. But I don't know. Like when I watch him move and stuff, I don't see that star level thing, but I've been wrong before. But yeah, no, I really like his game. I think he's a very low risk player. And if he ended up on the Wizards, then well, fair enough. Oh, another quick note with that. He'd be playing with Koulibaly, who's also French and has shown a lot of nice promise there. So you could have a nice little French team going on. Okay. So far I'm 4 for 4 in my head, at least, for who I'm thinking people or where people have these rankings at. Ron Holland Jr., he's the more stereotypical U.S. prospect, we'll call it, where big body, right? He's a wing. He gets to the hoop really well. Skills need to be refined a little bit. Like maybe he could be a little bit better ball handler. Maybe he could be a better help defender and stuff, right? See the lanes a little bit better, right? But super athletic, very skilled. I'm curious who they compare him to. Cam Whitmore. I would have said like RJ Barrett. Like that's kind of what I picture him more as. Like he's very strong already, gets to the rim well. He's got great drive to his game and everything. They only have him at 6'6". Why did I picture he was a little bit bigger? He looks a lot bigger on the court. He looks like 6'7", 6'8" on the court, but who knows? But anyway, more specifically with Ron Holland here, he's great in transition. Like that's his thing, right? I know he posted a triple-double in the G League, like pretty recently. I don't remember exactly what it is, but like dude gets up, he blocks shots, he's very active. He's shown that he like can understand like how to pass within a system and stuff like that. He can rebound. But like I said, it's just like with a lot of these American prospects, like there's a lot of little skills that they still need to gain compared to the foreign guys. But I mean, he's young, right? There's plenty of time to develop that stuff. Throwing him on Charlotte, I wonder, so what, he'd play the 2 with LaMelo and Brandon Miller? I mean, that'd be nice because you could get someone that's a little more, I guess, dominant in getting to the rack, which would be nice because Brandon Miller hasn't been great at that yet. Not that he hasn't been attacking, he just hasn't been finishing well. But putting Ron with them, that gives them like a long front court and everything. And another guy to run with LaMelo in transition is always a good thing as long as LaMelo can stay on the court. But no, I do like that fit with them. I could see that working out for them. But yeah, I think this is where you start to see more of like a potential thing going on where you're like, okay, I see the potential of this guy, right? I think with like Topich and Racher, or however you say his name, I don't see as much of it. Like I see it with Sar a little bit too, just because of his energy. But I think here is where like you could see someone that takes like incremental jumps. Like I see the talent there, the skill just isn't there yet. 5th pick, Matas Buzelis. Yes. And where would he be going? He'd be going to the Portland Trailblazers. All right, so you're finally adding a forward to this team, I guess, and the hope is that you're getting a guy that can shoot a little bit, right? I mean, Buzelis is supposed to be one of these guys that's like very skilled for his size and everything. Here's my thing. I don't really like Buzelis that much, and you can quote me as saying that right now. Obviously, things could change. I wasn't huge on Chet Holmgren coming in, and I've been proven completely wrong. He's improved in all the skills I thought that he was gonna be lacking in. But my thing is, like, I don't think Buzelis is a good enough athlete, and B, I think his handle is super weak to where he can be someone with the ball in his hands at all times. So, like, to me, like, I feel like he comes in the league as just kind of like a floor spacer and someone that's not necessarily capable of guarding at like a high level. So I don't know. I just don't really see it with him here. Who do they compare him to? Franz Wagner. I understand that in the way they moved because they move very similarly. They're not like very explosive, and they're also tall white guys, so fair enough. But yeah, I just don't really know what if I see it here. I think he could be like a nice like catch and shoot player in the NBA and stuff. Like he's shot more than fine in the G League and everything. So adding that around Portland with Scoot Henderson and like Shaden Sharp and Simons and those guys, sure, they need all the shooting they can get right now because that's part of the reason that Scoot maybe wasn't playing as well at the beginning. Plus Scoot's just a rookie point guard. It's hard to be a rookie point guard in the league, but I see the fit and everything. I'd struggle to take him this high in the draft. All right, next we got, okay, yeah, so this is where I start to question things a little bit more, and I don't necessarily have as many expectations. Rob Dillingham out of Kentucky. So something to note with this pick, I believe the Raptors lose their pick this year, which is something I didn't consider with the Pascal Siakam trade from yesterday. Like, that trade looks a lot worse to me now that, like, I know that if this pick falls below, I think it's 7 or below or something, they lose this pick to the Spurs. So we're going to picture that it's with Toronto right now. But, man, could you imagine the Spurs get another first-round pick this year, too, to pair with Wemby? Oh, my goodness, that'd be awesome. But let's talk about Dillingham and everything. So he's currently sharing the ball in college with DJ Wagner, a lot of another guy that's projected to go in the first round. And what's been interesting to me is his ability to play off and on ball. He's shooting pretty solid from the field and everything. He's shown like a nice handle and everything, and putting him on the Raptors I think makes a lot of sense, right? So Quickly is probably going to be their starting point guard going forward, at least for the foreseeable future. Him and RJ Barrett have been playing phenomenally for them. That trade has worked out a lot better than I thought for both teams. So good on them for knowing what they're doing. But if you're going to have RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes on the floor, you need a guard that's capable of playing without the basketball like Quickly is. And I see Dillingham as another guy that can do that. So I actually like that fit a ton. Plus, we've seen the capabilities of him being able to shoot like from deep and stuff, like really deep. He's taking some shots from. So you know what? If he's just kind of like a baby Emmanuel Quickly, I mean, who did they compare him to? Kemba Walker? I see that from like the ball handling perspective, but I think he's a different kind of player. But no, I see him as kind of like a baby Quickly in a way, so I like that. All right, what do we got next? Cody Williams to the Grizzlies at 7. I already like this pick for them a lot. So Cody Williams out of Colorado. He has his strengths and his weaknesses, right? He's a bigger wing, 6'8". Yeah, that's a nice size and everything. Not much of a shooter. Not necessarily that the percentages are bad. He just doesn't take many. He's all about getting to the rim, finishing strong around the rim. That's kind of what their offense tells him to do as well. So who knows if he becomes a shooter, then that's just a plus. But between that and him being a good defender, this makes a ton of sense, right? We've talked about on this channel, the downside of Memphis losing Ja, right, is the season's kind of a wash. But the upside is you're finding new players, right, like Vince and Gigi and stuff. But also you're going to have a high draft pick this year to plug another hole for this team that's trying to start to contend. Right, and that position that they really need to fill is the wing, right? Especially like a defensive, like 3-and-D type of wing. And while you're not necessarily getting the 3 out of this guy, he's coming into a team where there's already the top 3 scorers are established. It's Ja, Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr., right? So you throw him in there, and now you have someone that's putting other pressure on the rim. He's cutting off of other people's cuts or something. He can finish strong, and he can go out and defend other 3s and 4s and some 2s, right? Now all of a sudden you've got like a competent like 5 out there. And so I like that fit a ton for them. Next we have, I forget the Atlanta Hawks are like this bad, and that's why they have this pick. But Jacoby Walter, all right, the Baylor kid, 6'5", yeah, 6'5", all right, and they're comparing him to Moses Moody. I don't see that one. I don't see that one at all, but whatever. So Jacoby Walter, there's not a ton of obviously star potential left and everything at this point in the draft, but this guy, like, he at least looks like an NBA player, and a lot of Baylor players do. They seem to be pretty good at developing guys into that kind of NBA build. It's the shot making and the defense for this guy. His defense is elite, and he shoots like, I want to say it's like 36 or 37% from 38.5. Okay, even better. I'll just shut up. So you look at a guy like Jacoby, right, and you combine that with like his ball handling ability, the size, he's hitting step back threes and stuff like that in game, and I know he's getting up like a lot of attempts too or something. I was looking at his numbers the other day, but I want to say he's getting up like between like 4 and 6 threes per game, which is tough for college, right? Because and like college teams just don't know how to play offense most of the time. But he just looks like an NBA player out there, and I actually think he's one of those guys that when he gets to the league, kind of like Jordan Hawkins, where he's going to get into a game where there's more space at the NBA level, and he's going to be such a more effective basketball player. So as far as where he fits on the Hawks, I mean, I guess if DeJounte Murray's going to get traded, he's kind of a nice guy to have next to Trey because he can make shots, he can play off of him, and then when Trey's not in, maybe he can take some ball handling responsibilities, but more importantly, he can guard the better of the guards between the two. So yeah, I guess that fit makes sense. I mean, he's just a quality player in my opinion, so I like the pick. Number 9, Kyle Filipowski. Yeah, no, that makes sense for the Rockets. I like that pick. So Filipowski could have gone in the draft last year. He decided to come back for whatever reason, right? He's a big man. He's very big, very strong. He has 7 foot, 250 pounds, and he shoots a little bit from the outside. So I think the thing to note with Filipowski is like, yes, he's kind of supposed to be a stretch big because he's not the most athletic guy in the world, but his shooting numbers aren't necessarily great. But like you just kind of look at him and he just kind of seems like a guy that'll be kind of like a good backup stretch 5 in the NBA. And I know that his defensive numbers have been better in his sophomore year, and that's good because he doesn't necessarily have the build and the skill set to be like a really big time rim defender or anything, but you throw him on the Rockets behind Şengün, and that way you can kind of keep the same play style that you have for both guys, because I don't necessarily need Filipowski having his back to the basket like Şengün does sometimes, but just having a big that can stretch the floor for your other attacking players, whether that's like a Cam Whitmore, a Jalen Green, right? Guys like that, Jalen Smith, like just having more space for those guys to work. I like the potential of the draft there. Again, it kind of stinks to say that you're taking like a guy that projects as kind of like a backup with the 9th pick, but that might just be what you're getting in this draft. But at least he's a proven player. He seems pretty smart on the court and everything, and just bringing in good heads like that to the Rockets probably isn't the worst thing. All right, we have the Portland Trailblazers via the Warriors. Oh, that's right, they have that pick. Is that from the Gary Payton trade, I think? So I'm not even going to look at the comparison because I've seen it a ton of times. So Yves Missy, I believe is how you say it. And I'm going to guess the Mark Williams comparison. Yep, Mark Williams. Yeah. So, yeah, no, they're not wrong. Big, long, 7-foot center that goes up and dunks the ball and blocks shots. Nice. Those are my favorite type of bigs. Rim running guys, set hard screens, run to the rim and stuff. You throw them on the Portland Trailblazers. This is the type of guy that Scoot needs to play with, not DeAndre Ayton. Like, DeAndre Ayton just gets in his way and everything. I don't like the fit of Scoot with him. I'd much rather him have a guy like this, someone that can roll with him, can get him some easy assists where he's just throwing it up to the rim and everything. Just having a big that kind of always has his back like that. The game's not hard to explain for a guy like this at all, but he projects to be a good modern NBA center. So between Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton, maybe you find a way to move them for something else. The Trailblazers are just trying to accumulate talent right now, but they have like nobody at the wing. So you'd like them to address the wing, but maybe at this point you just take the best available player and you try to move on from Ayton or Robert Williams in some other way. All right, number 11. Oh, this is where the Bulls come in. And all right, I'm going to mess his name up because I've only ever heard like the foreign announcers say it, but Tidjane Saloon? I hope. Another French guy, though. A lot of French guys following in Wemby's footsteps and everything. So basically, picture him as like a very athletic power forward that has shown signs of shooting the 3-ball. He's one of the younger guys in the draft, too. He's probably like still 18 or maybe turning 19. Something like that. He's very young, but super athletic, shoots the 3-ball solid. So I like this for the Bulls because it's probably going to be a positional need of theirs by the end of the season at kind of the power forward spot. And the upside alone is enough to kind of take a flyer on it because that's what the Bulls should be doing at this point, is looking for upside. Yeah, I like the shooting 38% from 3, 6'9" power forward. The Obi Toppin comparison is interesting. I actually kind of like that. Yeah, the Chicago Bulls will prioritize upside over fit just because, they've been stuck in no man's land for so long. And I just like the idea of them bringing in like another foreign guy too, someone that maybe has a little more refined skill set and everything. I don't necessarily seeing him like with the ball much or anything like that, but that's okay. Not everybody has to be good at everything. So yeah, I mean, for an 11th pick, like the upside like that, That could be worth it. I could see him in Portland too, over Missy here as well. So I'll be curious to kind of see how they prioritize that fit. Who do we have next? Tyler Smith, another Ignite guy, another power forward. Too. They have him as power forward. Interesting, because yeah, he's a bigger dude. So this is Oklahoma City's pick. I guess they got it from the Rockets, probably in the Westbrook trade or something. And I like this fit a lot. Being able to put a guy kind of at the forward position here. And I'll explain why I think this is a really good pick, because we know the Thunder have a lot of guys that can handle the ball right now. They got Shea, they got Giddey, and they've got like not necessarily Dort, but like Jalen Williams, who can all put it on the ground. They just drafted Cason Wallace. They need a guy that can work off ball, and that's kind of where Tyler Smith works best. Because while he doesn't have like elite ball handling, he's pretty good like off the catch, taking a dribble in or something like that, hitting a mid-range. I know his three-point shot's been pretty solid. I've seen him hit a couple floaters and things like that. So if you just have like a cutting big like this, that's athletic like this and can space the floor a little bit, you got a pretty nice little starting five you could throw out there. Maybe Dort moves to the bench or something like that. I don't know. Dort's had such a great season, but this is the kind of guy they need. They need more size. They need more forwards and stuff like that. Guys that can shoot. A guy like this, in my opinion, translates very well into their scheme. Again, I think the American prospects a lot of times maybe have a little more upside to them, just because they're being trained on like explosiveness and things like that, and a lot more of their athletic abilities, and then the skills come later and you see if those translate or they pick them up at some point. So you're going to see people say he's like a higher potential pick and everything. And I mean, OKC's got all the picks in the world, so they can shoot for the stars with those guys. And the benefit of him coming into a team like this, like we said, already have ball handlers and they already have all their primary scorers. So he just has to play off of them. And I think that'll make his job a lot easier. Alrighty, next 13. That's where we get to the Pelicans. Are the Pelicans this low in the draft? That's interesting to me. Is there something that I'm missing about this? Not really. But anyway, Dalton Connect, yeah, the Tennessee dude. Every year there's a guy like this. The Grady Dick, if you will, of this last draft. Three-point shooter, right? Elite shooter. I know he was in like a shooting slump for like a little bit or something like that, but I know he also put up like 40 points in a game the other day. I don't remember against who or anything like that. I can't keep track of anything, but he's a dude that he's been in college basketball for a while. He's like, I believe he's a senior or something like that, but he's just such an elite shooter and scorer. He makes a lot of sense to put on a guy like the Pelicans. Upside not high at all, but he's going to come in, be a very skill-oriented player, not going to make many mistakes, right? Will he be able to defend at the next level? That's another question, because his athleticism isn't like that crazy, at least like in his lateral quickness. And yeah, you can picture it, right? You can look at him and picture that. We all can say it, right? Like, doesn't look like the most athletic or anything, but he's got decent size at like 6'6", and his shooting stroke's elite, right? That's what they need around Zion, BI, and whoever else they decide to build around on this team, right? I like the pick there. That makes sense. All right, and we'll do the final one in the lottery. Another Oklahoma City pick via the Jazz this time. Man, the Jazz don't have their first-round pick? Is that true? Man, that sucks. We have Ulrich Kromke. He's the kid from Africa, right? Yeah, he's from the academy there. Cameroon. Same as, I think, Joel Embiid's from Cameroon as well. So I'll be honest, I haven't watched, like, any film on this guy. I've only heard about it. I'll have to watch this like afterwards and get a sense of it. All I've heard from like one of my buddies that was a part of this like NBA academy in Africa is he was like, yeah, he's not sure if he's going to go to college or not this next year, which from what he told me, he thinks he'd benefit from going to college or something, just getting another year to kind of get like bigger and stronger and things like that. But big time shot blocker, shown some capabilities of putting the ball on the floor and everything, a little bit of shot creating and stuff, just very, very raw. That's probably the best way to describe him. Very raw. So gonna be a project. If Oklahoma City picked him, that'd make a lot of sense. They got time to develop dudes like that. They have the picks to do so. So I could see something like that taking place. I don't really have much else to say about him, though. I just haven't watched a ton of him. But no, I like the pick. I'm going to scroll through kind of the rest of this now and see if there's anybody else that I think is kind of a sleeper. And we'll go back. Oh, I'll touch on Collier a little bit. Just because there was points where Collier was considered to possibly be the number one pick in the draft. And obviously the Wizards series, we picked him with like the third pick or whatever. You guys should go watch that series. Collier, big, strong point guard, good passer and everything, turns the ball over a bit too much. His shooting form's weird, very athletic, very quick. I don't necessarily see his game translating to the NBA very well, at least like a high level. I don't know. I don't think he's as smart of a basketball player as you need to be to play at the next level. Obviously very gifted athletically and everything, but I think between the shooting and everything, and mind you, you can develop anybody. I don't know. I don't really see it out of Collier. Not a huge fan. Atlanta Hawks via Kings, Donovan Clingan. Yeah, big kid, right? Yeah, 7'2", 280. Nice rim protector. He actually moves pretty well for his size, too. I think this is a guy that's kind of like a Walker Kessler, that he maybe falls in the draft a little bit, but I think he translates to the NBA, like, instantly. So keep your eyes out for Clingan. DJ Wagner at 32. Again, these Kentucky guys, high upside, always and everything. Ton of athleticism, maybe not the most refined, like, actual, like, basketball knowledge and everything. Could be a value pick there. No way. They got Baylor Shireman getting drafted in the NBA. We'll just say my past in coaching and being around college basketball, I got to know Baylor Shireman pretty well, and I just can't believe he's in this competition now, man. That ugly ass jumper and everything. But hey, no, he plays great at Creighton and everything. He's a hell of a basketball player, so maybe a value pick there. Shout out Baylor Shireman. All right, I didn't really find anything else that was all that interesting. So that's the latest mock draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and everything. Curious to hear your thoughts. Is there a sleeper that I'm not paying enough attention to? I'm not too into diving into all the film yet, but always curious to hear what you guys think. But anyways, thanks so much for the support and everything, you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, because YouTube keeps telling me I should tell you guys to do that, I guess. So please just do it. Thank you very much. But yeah, let me know what else you want to see, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.